The term Mary Sue was originally created in a Star Trek fanfiction parody. The reason why it was created was to make fun of fanfiction writers who put in their own self-insert who were perfect or nearly perfect in every single way. But of course, Mary Sue characters have existed long before this parody fanfiction ever came out. Take Lancelot from Arthurian legend. Yes, believe it or not, Lancelot, the knight who's good at everything and bangs King Arthur's wife, is someone's self-insert OC do not steal. You had stories like Dante's Inferno, where Dante, the writer of the story, created his own self-insert character, who is taken on an adventure through hell by a historical figure he really likes, and everybody he doesn't like or politically disagrees with is suffering in hell.
So Virgil's like, looks like you're too lame to go to heaven. Fortunately, your dead girlfriend Beatrice has sent me to help toughen you up. And Dante's like, Virgil senpai, I'm your biggest fan!
As an author, Dante makes some sharp criticisms during these last few circles, including referencing political parties and real people.
And in the third book, he goes to heaven where he meets his super hot girlfriend who's even more hot than ever.
Beatrice somehow manages to become even prettier.
Nowadays, if someone made a fanfiction like this, they would have been laughed off the internet. But how do we treat this super big loser in the modern times? Well, we named a main character from the most badass hack and slash franchise after him. There was also, of course, the video game Dante's Inferno, but no one remembers that game. I'm just bringing up these two examples to show you guys that Mary Sues have existed since, well, basically as long as stories existed. So it's by no means a new thing. However, in the modern times, there seems to be more Mary Sues than ever, and a lot of them are coming from Disney. So I decided to make this video so I can talk about the Disney Sue. But before you continue watching this video, I would highly recommend you check out my video, Mary Sues and Gary Stews, and my video, Too Many Mary Sues.
Just a robot.
Now, so people don't immediately accuse me of being sexist, I'm gonna go over a Gary Stew first. And that Gary Stew is Kylo Ren. So one of the many reasons why people call Rey a Mary Sue is because she beat Luke Skywalker, but the thing is, Luke Skywalker was not trying to hurt her. If he had a lightsaber, he would have killed her right here. Plus, he disarmed her and threw away her stick. Then she had a lightsaber and all he had left was, well, a stick. But do you know who did beat Luke Skywalker when Luke Skywalker had a lightsaber and was actually trying? Kylo Ren! Luke got the drop on Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren still beat him. And yes, this was before his training with Snoke. Well, maybe he trained with Snoke before in the comics, but I didn't read those. So does this mean Rey is less of a Mary Sue than we once thought? No, of course not, because she actually beat Kylo Ren with a little to no training, making her even more powerful than we once thought. Basic power scaling. If character A can be character B and character B can be character C, then character A can also probably be character C. Now, a character's power level doesn't automatically make them a Mary Sue. However, in Star Wars, it's established that you have to train a lot to be a good Jedi, and Rey did little to none of that. Kylo Ren was the son of Princess Leia's chips and Han Sus, basically making him half Jedi, half badass. And he was trained by Jean-Luc Picard Skywalker. At least he has some reason to have his power level, but Rey still beats him. Now we're going to talk about Rey more later, but let's talk about another Disney Stew, Captain Marvel. I would argue she's nowhere near as big of a Mary Sue as Rey is, but she certainly has a higher power level. One thing a lot of people liked about the MCU is that a lot of the characters were pretty evenly matched. Iron Man could go toe-to-toe with Thor. Captain America was also able to block an attack from Thor. I also don't think I need to tell you that Thor and Hulk are also pretty evenly matched. And nowhere are these even power levels better shown than in the movie Captain America Civil War. Despite Captain America's team not really having that many heavy hitters on it, he did have Wanda, who was the strongest person in that movie. Yes, back then there is a movie where the female character was the strongest, but people didn't care, because she wasn't a Mary Sue. Although in WandaVision, now they're implying that she is the absolute strongest superhero, even stronger than Captain Marvel.
She could have taken out Thanos on her own if he hadn't initiated a blitz. I mean, nobody else came close.
Well, I'd argue that Captain Marvel came close. power exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme.
Now, I did talk about this a little in my Too Many Mary Sues video, but I would like to clarify something real quick. I don't think Wanda is a Mary Sue. However, making her the strongest was a bit of a Mary Sue move. And yes, I understand she is powerful in the comics, but we're talking about the movie canon, not the comic canon. I honestly think that the studio just made Wanda the strongest character because, well, let's be honest, a lot of people don't like Captain Marvel. And having your most hated superhero also being the most powerful? Yeah, that's not a good idea. This isn't Dragon Ball, this is Marvel. What do we know about Captain Marvel other than that she's powerful? I think she might be a lesbian. I mean, we know Disney is never going to show it so they can keep selling to the Chinese. What was her weakness? What was the one thing holding her back? Well, it was that she wasn't using her full power. But I already went over Captain Marvel in past videos. One thing that I didn't mention is that she can look at Thor, the god of thunder, directly in his eyes and not flinch when his hammer is coming right for her head. Yes, a fucking god is nothing compared to her. She's so powerful that Thanos, the big bad who has been built up for several movies, can't even make her flinch by headbutting her. He had to use one of his Infinity Stones just to knock her away. Speaking of Mary Sues, whose big weakness is that they're not using their full power, let's talk about Mulan from the live-action Mulan movie. If you want to see a pretty good breakdown of the movie, I would recommend checking out Just Stop's video. I'm just gonna go over Mulan the character, and that's it. Is Mulan a badass because she did a whole bunch of training like she did in the animated movie? No, she's just born a badass. Now here's something that makes a character more of a Mary Sue than just power level. When a character is so powerful that the rest of the cast becomes useless, they're much more of a Mary Sue. Kind of like how Inuyasha from, well, Inuyasha is just so much above everybody else on his team. The demon hunting girl with the giant boomerang is pretty useless. The little fox boy is, well, he's supposed to be useless, so of course he's useless. And the priest with a black hole in his hand becomes useless whenever those poisonous insects show up. But even for how useless the characters are, they still get a few moments to shine here and there. No one gets to shine in the presence of Mulan and Rey. I'm not going to act like Yao Lin and Jim Po were like super badass characters or anything, but at least they got a moment to shine when they got into the Emperor's palace. The soldiers in the Mulan movie basically do nothing, they're just there. The only character who gets to shine aside from Mulan in the live-action movie is, I think, the Emperor. There was a deleted scene from the Star Wars sequel trilogy where Finn and Rey are running away from some stormtroopers. Rey tries to shoot, but she's not good at it. Finn tries to drive, but he's not good at it. Then they switch because Finn's good at shooting because he's a stormtrooper, and Rey's good at driving because, well, I guess just because. But they took the scene out because it makes someone aside from Rey look somewhat competent. I'm not saying Mulan and Rey do 100% of all the work, I'm just saying they do 90% of it. And just like in Captain Marvel, her one weakness is that she's not using her full power. But in Mulan, it's even worse. Captain Marvel just gets more powerful. But Mulan's power boost comes from her actually going against the premise of the movie by taking off her disguise that makes her look like a man. You know, the whole premise of the story? That would be like Spider-Man getting a power boost because he stops being responsible. Now, these are all three well-known examples, and I keep thinking Disney is going to learn their lesson, but they never do. Oh boy, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier! I can't wait to see how much of the TV show is about them! Almost half of it is given to this one flag smasher girl who is just as strong as Captain America and is an activist. But she isn't a Mary Sue, she's just a female character who got a little too much screen time and oh, okay, now we're showing the Wakandan Royal Guards, and they're beating up Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon. And they defeat Falcon, the Winter Soldier, and totally not Donald Trump, Captain America. Were the Wakandan Royal Guards really always this strong? Where were they in Captain America Civil War? They could have really helped Black Panther out.
They weren't even super soldiers.
Yeah, they weren't super soldiers. They were even stronger. They were whammon. But hey, Captain Falcon and the Wendigo Soldier wasn't that bad. Let's check out Loki. Wow, this is pretty good so far, and oh, now there's a female Loki. And she's taking on the entire organization that watches over the sacred timeline. A force so powerful that they use Infinity Stones as paperweights.
We actually got a lot of those. Yeah, some of the guys use them as paperweights.
But I will say that female Loki really isn't all that powerful. Hell, I would say that she's weaker than the main Loki. But Loki talks about her like they need her, like she's the key to everything, even though she seems like way more of a hindrance and a help throughout the show. Spoiler alert, at the end of season 1 they have a chance to have, well, basically everything they could ever want. And what does she do? Give it all up to break the sacred timeline, creating a chaotic multiverse. But at the same time, I barely know anything about her character. She kind of just looks sad. And that's it! I didn't think the romance between her and Loki was cute in the least bit. And that's coming from me, a guy who's a total sucker for self-cessed, gender-bent relationships. Loki is also acting completely out of character. He's acting way too nice. Could I believe the Loki from Infinity War acted this nice? Yes! He got a lot of character development that got him up to that point.
I don't enjoy hurting people.
Dude, just a few days ago you gouged out a guy's eye! What you said is bullshit, you do like hurting people! Loki is such a simp in this. He's chasing after this girl version of himself who clearly doesn't like him, but then all of a sudden she does like him. Oh my god. Girl Loki is a tsundere. At least I think she likes him. They do nothing but argue and fight. You know what, forget about what I said. I can't understand the relationship at all. They keep messing up the plans of one another, backstabbing each other, trying to kill each other. The relationship is absolutely abusive and toxic. It's so toxic that it could have ripped apart the sacred timeline. And it did! But I guess it's romantic because they both have mommy issues and Loki put that blanket over her that one time. But I want to make this clear, in my opinion, girl Loki isn't a Mary Sue. She's just close to one. Now we get to the last show on this list, Marvel What If. Did I think Captain America Peggy Hill was a Mary Sue? No. In some ways she is better than Captain America, and she is another woman who fights against the YouTube demonetization. I meant she fights against German soldiers in World War II. That's what I meant. Now this has nothing to do with being a Mary Sue, but I have noticed a lot of women lately beating up World War II German soldiers as of late. It happened in season 2 of The Boys, that one Battlefront game, and now this. Don't worry ladies, I know you missed out on bashing the fash in World War II, but World War III will be fought in space, and women actually are better fighters in space than men due to their center of gravity. Just hope and pray that there's a nationalist socialist base on the dark side of the moon. I like that Peggy is in a relationship with Steve even though he's not super buff, and there is more than just physical attraction between them. And Steve is not just thrown to the side, he actually becomes the first Iron Man. And hey, if Tony Stark can build the first Iron Man suit in a cave with a box of scraps, I have no doubt in my mind that Robert Downey Sr. could create one with the military backing him and a fucking Infinity Stone. Don't get me wrong, there are a few people who think Captain England is a Mary Sue, and if you have an opinion, good for you, but I personally don't see them as a Mary Sue. As for episode 2, well, I'm about to get into that, but I'm definitely nervous about this part. Mainly because I looked up if anybody had the same opinion as me, and the first video I saw on this topic had more dislikes than likes, even though I agreed with basically all of the guy's arguments. And Lonely Goomba also did not approve of his video. But then again, every other video I saw on this same topic seemed to have a lot more likes than dislikes. So maybe people will agree with me here, or maybe I'll get a bunch of comments saying, I agreed with this video up until this point. Unsubscribe and dislike. Your opinion is wrong. So I think I might be going against the grain here, and from what past experiences have taught me, if you're going against the grain, be as nice as possible and maybe people will hear you out. I think that Black Panther Starlord is a Gary Stu. Now, before you say, Marvel What If is not meant to be taken seriously, okay. A Mary Sue still equals a Mary Sue whether it's meant to be taken seriously or not. And he's not exactly supposed to be a gag character or anything, he's just, what if Black Panther became Starlord? Now at the start of the first episode, it's shown that he's basically better than the original Starlord in every way. He doesn't say, I'm Starlord, and someone else says, who? He's about to say, I'm Starlord, and people are like, oh my god, you're Starlord, the legendary outlaw.
Oh, Starlord! I'm a huge fan of your work.
Even Yondu works for him. Now, to be fair, I don't think this automatically makes him a Gary Stu. Black Panther was raised to be a warrior in a much more advanced society, while the original Starlord was just some kid from America. So it would make sense why Black Panther is a better fighter and knows more about technology. However, the moment I thought he was a Gary Stu was when I found out that fucking Thanos worked for him. Why? Well, he gave a good argument to convince Thanos that wiping out half the universe's population wasn't such a good idea. Yeah, Thanos' plan sounds like it makes sense until you think about it for more than 6 seconds. Plenty of people have come up with several good arguments on why Thanos' plan is completely mad, which is why he's called the Mad Titan. He's not stupid, but he's crazy. Are you telling me that the events of the first Avengers movie, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame could have all been avoided if someone just gave Thanos a good argument? Both Thor and Loki are thousands of years older than Black Panther. They couldn't come up with a good argument to convince Thanos that his plan is absolutely mad. Iron Man, who's the smartest man in the world, couldn't come up with an argument to convince Thanos that his plan was absolutely mad. Not even Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, and a doctor could come up with an argument to convince Thanos that his plan is absolutely mad. But Black Panther could just because he's a diplomat? Really? I'm pretty sure there's no argument to convince Thanos that his plan is not such a good idea. He was killing literal billions of people, searching for the Infinity Stones, all just to accomplish his plan. There was nothing to convince him to change his mind at that point. Hell, Black Panther was there in Infinity War. Maybe he could have walked up to Thanos and said, "Yo, Thanos. Huh? All lives matter." Whoa, I never thought of it like that. This sounds like something a 5-year-old would write. He actually becomes the legendary outlaw Starlord, and Thanos works for him, and Yondu works for him, and Drac the Destroyer is just his bartender, and he saves his home planet and several other planets? But then I started thinking maybe he's not a Gary Stu, because his plan was failing and he got captured, but then it was revealed that this was all part of his own plan and he was doing a triple cross. And then he fights the Collector, who's absolutely buff, which implies that he's even stronger than the original Collector. And he also has Thanos' old minions working for him. And on top of all of that, he has so many weapons. Seriously, did a 5-year-old write this? And he has a dagger that was forged in a dwarven star? And he has Thor's sister's helmet, which gives him her abilities, which I don't know was a thing. I thought those were her powers and her helmet was just on her head as a regular helmet, but whatever. And he does this all with no powers. Even Batman is looking at this like, dude, a guy with no powers doing all of this is just unrealistic. But I will certainly give Disney credit for one thing: they made the first Black Gary Stu. So progressive. And Black Panther Starlord is absolutely a Gary Stu in every single way. He's completely flawless. And before someone says this was a send-off to the actor after he died, no, this was written and recorded before he died, so don't play that card. And I don't want to make light of the guy's death. He was a good actor and he seemed like a nice guy. But this character he voiced was still a Gary Stu at the end of the day. And it's not his fault that the character is like this, it's the writers! If you disagree with my opinion that Black Panther Starlord is a Gary Stu, that's fine. This is just my opinion and you can leave your own in the comment section. As for why Rey from Star Wars is a Mary Sue, well, I think this video is long enough, and I think she deserves her own video. But knowing my track record for saying, I'm gonna talk about this in a future video, it's probably gonna take a few years. But when or if I make it, I'll also debunk a few rumors as to why she's a Mary Sue that are simply untrue. But yes, she is absolutely a Mary Sue, and I will be going over that in the future. Is there anything you disagree with in this video? Or do you think there are other Disney Sues that I missed? Tell me in the comments section down below.